Hello everybody, good afternoon and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United transfer news and a little bit of positive news coming in from Germany around Ligt and an openness from Bayern Munich to get this deal done so that they can get their deal done with Leverkusen for Jonathan Tah, which is total hypocrisy because the parallels between their negotiations with Leverkusen and how they've driven them down and yet they won't be driven down by Man United is just hypocrisy. But we'll talk about that. It's looking good for Ligt. Also, very interesting comments coming out from Onana. He says he's going to take risks this season, so you better get ready, Man United fans. We'll talk about what that means for us and how we might be playing this season, because to be honest with you, if you're going to buy Onana, some people might be concerned about the mistakes last year and the increased mistakes with the risks he's going to take. I don't think he's talking about, coming up for corners. I think he's talking about, let's get that line higher, let's play out from the back, which is exactly what we bought him for. So I think there's some positive stuff around Onana there as well. But let's hit the latest news. It's coming from Germany. It's coming in from Florian Plettenberg, who is a Sky Germany journalist. And he basically said this a couple of days ago. There is a couple of hours ago. Don't worry, we're not going back. We're not Michael J. Fox going back to the future here. This is an update in the last couple of hours, but there's a prelude to it, a prequel, if you like. So Bayern's offer of 20 million euros plus 5 million for Jonathan Tah is on the table and valid. Leverkusen has now moved away from their initial 35 to 40 million fee. This is also because Jonathan Tah has once again made it clear internally that he will not extend his contract and wants to join Bayern Munich immediately. Leverkusen wants a decision soon. An agreement in the range of 30 million euros is conceivable. So that's a couple of days ago. That's Bayern Munich offering below what Leverkusen want, and that's Jonathan Tah telling Leverkusen that he won't be signing a new contract, so you may as well do a deal. So Bayern basically squeezing Leverkusen, the title holders, by Leverkusen are the title holders being squeezed by Bayern Munich for a cheaper price. 2 hours ago, the deal is done. Fee-wise, it's 25 million euros plus 5 million euros between Leverkusen and Bayern Munich for Jonathan Tah. As soon as Ligt joins Manchester United, Bayern will finalise the deal with Tah. Verbal agreement done. Contract until 2029. So it's a significant development because we always knew that Bayern Munich wanted Jonathan Tah to come in as a replacement for Ligt, obviously German defender as well. They have now agreed a deal with Bayer Leverkusen for Jonathan Tah, 25 million euros plus 5. Leverkusen were initially looking for another 10 million euros there. So what have we learnt? Well, Bayern Munich will not sign Tah until Ligt comes to Manchester United. Bayern Munich have now done a deal with Leverkusen and Jonathan Tah. So for that deal to get done, they have to get Ligt out. And also from that Leverkusen deal, if you're Man United, you're saying, we can visibly see you've negotiated the price down with Leverkusen to get Jonathan Tah. We want to negotiate the price down for Ligt, and everybody just goes about their way. So hopefully Bayern Munich will now look at it in a much more compelling and urgent way that they've got their deal done for Tah, get Ligt done with Man United, and away we go. And hopefully that's what we're going to see happening now. So quite a significant update from Germany this lunchtime. Bayern Munich have agreed a deal with Leverkusen and Jonathan Tah, but they will not finalise it until Ligt is a Manchester United player. And we heard at the weekend from the sporting director of Bayern Munich that they will explain the Ligt situation in the future once that deal has been done. So take a bit of a deep breath. It's a bit of a positive. It is a big positive, in fact. We can't afford to be walking away from Ligt and Ugarte. Not to say that we won't still. Bloody hell, we still got to get the fee done with Bayern Munich, but it's looking more likely now than maybe it was this morning, because all the communications coming out of Germany is that to get Tah, they've got to get Ligt, and obviously Manchester United are in there with him. So yes, a positive update. And look, I'll say what I said. if I had the choice between De Ligt and Ugarte, it would be De Ligt, because that will make us play that higher line. And this is what Onana had to say as well, just bringing that in. The goalkeeper has revealed that he's got no plans to stop his high-risk strategy when the new season gets underway. He says that is because the best team in the world takes risks, building from the back, recognise things, situation when the opponent jumps 1 against 1 or when they press with 3 with 4, recognise we dominate the pressing if it's a 9 or 11. So for me, it's important to recognise those kind of things and make the best decision for the team. I will take a lot of responsibility, and I think my back is huge to carry it all. I think it's going to be a nice this season. Maybe in the beginning it was a bit strange for me because I wasn't used to the country and the setup, but I feel good. It's a nice place to be, and my teammates, the staff and the fans make it really easy for me. So I'm happy to be here. So I think that with Onana, what he's basically saying is that we're going to see the real Onana this season, and the real Onana is what we saw for Inter in that Champions League final. It's what we've seen for Ajax previously, a ball-playing goalkeeper. And that's why De Ligt is so important, because if you've got De Ligt and you've got Martinez and you've got Dalot and you've got Shaw, then you've got a back four that will push up the pitch and leave Onana that space to sweep a keep. They will want the ball as well. I mean, we talk about the high line so much, and it is important, but what's also important with the likes of Martinez and De Ligt incoming as and when, if and when that happens, and Dalot and Luke Shaw is, I genuinely feel that with Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Johnny Evans, Harry Maguire, they're all fine as backups, but when you start them in the first team and Onana's got the ball, he's sort of looking at them and going, they're not confident. They're not confident. They're not confident. They don't want this ball under pressure. Whereas if you look at Martinez, he knows he can give it him under pressure, and Martinez is fine with it. De Ligt will be used to it. Luke Shaw's good with it under pressure, and so's Dalot. And that's going to be so transformative because we didn't have that last season. We didn't, did we? Like, we had so many players out. So I think fundamentally, getting De Ligt in is more important than Ugarte in the short term, because it will allow us to have those passing options out of the back. It will allow us to play higher up the pitch, which will mean Onana can sweep a keep, and it should allow us to get up the pitch and have more possession. So yeah, very, very positive. Out and About with Job says, do you think that Ineos walking away from deals is a strategic tactic to change the perception and repair our reputation for future negotiations? I mean, yes and no. I think walking away from deals will represent a backbone that United have never had. But you can't just walk away from deals and do worse deals. And what I mean by that is Manchester United 2 years ago went and spent £130 million on Casemiro and Antony after the season had started. So, you know, there's no point saying, oh, we've grown a pair, we're really reputable now, we're walking away from deals. You don't know what the deal we're walking towards is going to be. I mean, look, on the midfield situation, I still will say this. When we had that story last night at 8 o'clock from David Ornstein that Manchester United had walked away from an Ugarte deal, I really expected a download of Romano, you know, and everybody else to be this. And we're approaching 24 hours later, and I think it's very, very quiet. I think it's very, very quiet. I mean, I know we spoke about Sander Berge this morning, and we spoke about other options, but it's very, very quiet around, for a club that's walked away from Ugarte and one of the biggest clubs in the world. That's like, you know, I mean, if you're a journalist, this is, you know, this is Christmas. You can go to town and you can write anything you like. I mean, you could literally be writing as a journalist and going, Man United are now looking at this, Man United are looking at that. It's a free hit, and yet very, very quiet. So, you know, it's not that I don't want to talk about the midfield situation. As I said this morning, I still think we'll get Ugarte. It doesn't feel to me like that's over, and it certainly isn't like everybody else is talking about many other options. So I still think that's on. Not getting Onana is looking worse and worse. We're getting linked to all these midfielders, says Barney. Talking about Onana from Everton. I don't rate Onana from Everton, mate. I don't. I really don't. Every time I've watched him, I've not been impressed. I mean, he wasn't Everton's best player by a very long way. And there's potential there, of course, and maybe Villa have you know, got a diamond there in the rough, but I don't rate Onana. I'm not. I'll be surprised if I get proven wrong on that one, really. I don't think he was the solution for Manchester United, and seen him play quite a lot as well. And I've seen players, I've played the game. You know, I've seen Jack Grealish at Aston Villa when Villa weren't that good, and you can see the quality. You can see why big clubs are looking at him. I didn't look at Onana and go, wow, there's a player that's going to tear. I mean, like Casido and Bissouma at Brighton. I could see what that was all about. And I'm not saying that either of them have fulfilled that talent, but I don't look at Onana and go, oh my God, we've missed out there. And also, he's gone to Aston Villa. I mean, he's not gone to Man City. He's not gone to Liverpool. He's not gone to Arsenal. So I think he's, I don't think we've missed out there. In the first season, Casemiro had Martinez and Varane as coverage. Last season, it was Maguire and Evans as Trey. I think if we get the Ligt, Casemiro will look much better. Look, Trey, I've played the game. I've played as a holding midfielder. Some of you will have played as a holding midfielder. And it doesn't matter whether you've played it online or on a Sunday morning pub team. When you've got two centre-backs that are close to you, it's an easier job. The passing range is easier. The security is easier. When you're playing in a midfield where your defensive line is 20 metres away and your forward line is 20 metres away, then you are exposed. So you're right. Look, De Ligt and Martinez closer to Casemiro makes his job easier. 100%. But look, I will say this. I don't think Casemiro is the solution. And I do not think Ten Hag or Ineos think Casemiro is the solution. As Fabrizio said yesterday, the midfielder that Man United wanted to move on was Casemiro, and the interest isn't there at the moment. United walking away from Ugarte for a cheaper alternative is surely as prioritising the double deal from Bayern, says Cameron. You would feel that Bayern deal should be moving, but let's just be very wary. It's Tuesday afternoon. Tomorrow's halfway through the week. Still nothing going on. You know, don't be distracted. Still nothing going on. Austin Paul, welcome to the Members Club. And when I say still nothing going on, I mean, like, there's no here we go. There's no this is that, that's that. We're hearing that with Wan-Bissaka and West Ham, it's getting closer and closer and something could happen later on today. But that could have happened on Friday. That could have happened last Thursday. I mean, it could happen today. Hopefully it will happen today. But the hours pass by. You know, time's moving on. Austin Paul, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much for joining that. Locke says, hi Mark, happy 16 months as a member. Thanks for being a member, mate. Any updates on the left back? Seems to have gone quiet on such priority. Got my exam results back today as well. Hope they were good. In relation to the left back, I think we spoke about this yesterday. There's definitely two tiers, two phases to Manchester United's transfer activity. Phase one is to get the De Ligt, Mazraoui midfielder situation resolved. And then when that's done, I think United will look at other areas if there is time. So the quicker we get these deals done, the more time we'll have to look at a left back. But remember, Mazraoui can play at left back. Dalot can play at left back. I mean, I don't like that. A lot of people say, oh, Mazraoui can play at left back. But if Luke Shaw's injured, this is where it will fall apart. If Luke Shaw's injured, Mazraoui plays at left back. Who's the cover at right back? Oh, Mazraoui, can you come back? Can you come on for 20 minutes at right back because Dalot's tired? Oh, no, you can't because you're already playing at left back. Okay, can you move across to right back and we'll bring Amas on? Oh, Amas is not quite ready yet. Okay, can you go back to left back? And Johnny Evans, can you go at right back? I get the point that Dalot and Mazraoui can play at left back, but Dalot and Mazraoui would be the right backs. Two. Luke Shaw and Amas at left back's not enough. And, you know, do not start to me about Malacia. I mean, the guy's not played for a year and a half and we think he's going to be a backup left back for the Premier League. So I still think we need a left back. I still think we'll get a left back, but it will be towards the end of the transfer window. And I think that what will happen is we may well bring somebody in on a cheap deal or a loan deal. How much game do you think, Anand says, how much game time do you think Mount will actually get this season? I mean, I was feeling quite upbeat and you brought me down a bit there, I've got to be honest, and I'm trying to figure out why. I'm quite upbeat about the De Ligt story and Tar, and, you know, I want us to get some players in. It's not Mason Mount's fault, but it just brings me down. It brings me down because it's just, you know, again, using what we've got. And look, I want Mason Mount to do well. I think there's a good player there, but we bought him last year. Like, I don't know what his future's going to be. I just hope it can be something. I mean, but it's the same as Anthony. It's the same as Rashford. It's the same as Onana. These are already Man United players that we need to perform. I suppose with Mount, the question is, where will he play? I can't see him starting games, to be honest with you. I just don't see where he starts. You can't not start Mainu. You can't not start Bruno. You're going to start Garnacho and Rashford, or maybe Ahmad. So where does Mason Mount even start? I don't know where Mason Mount gets into this team. I don't even know. Here's a question for you. A very good question. If Mason Mount finds, and it's a big ask whether he will, but if Mason Mount finds his prime Chelsea form, which is very good, where does he play for Man United? And that is the question to ask. Let's not be doubters about injury or ability. The very best Mason Mount from Chelsea, where does he start for Man United? Because he doesn't. Because Mason Mount at his best at Chelsea isn't better than Bruno. And Mason Mount at his best at Chelsea is not a better number 8 than Mainu. And he's not a better left winger than Rashford. And he's not a better right winger than Ahmad. Or Garnacho on the left either. So that's the thing for me. I think Mason Mount, we've just got to say, please stay fit. Start playing well. You've got a very decent bench player there. Who will play a lot of games because there will be injury and there will be rotation. But I'll be very surprised, pleasantly surprised, if Mason Mount becomes a first-team player for Man United, because I just don't see where he fits in. Even at his very best, he's not better than Bruno as a 10, he's not better than Mainu as an 8, and he's not better than our wingers. So I think Mason Mount would probably answer the question there. If he can stay fit, he'd be a very, very, very valuable member of this squad. And also, we talk about Man City and their dominance of the Premier League. What's Jack Grealish? Not a starter for Man City, very important player. What's Kovacic? Not a starter for Man City, very important player. So, Alvarez is leaving now, but is he a starter for Man City? No. So I think that we don't need to get too hung up on whether Mason Mount's a starter, because if you want to be successful, then you've got to have players that are good enough to start for your first team, but maybe don't. I mean, look at Trossard at Arsenal. Is he a starter or is it Martinelli? That's what you need. That's what you need to happen. Talking about Alvarez, by the way, check out my latest video on That's Football. Oh my God, the Man City fans do exist. They're going absolutely mad because I've said, where the hell have Atletico Madrid got £80 million from to pay that for Alvarez? And it is awash with comments saying, World Cup winner, treble winner. And I'm like, David May was a treble winner. Otamendi was a World Cup winner. I mean, that doesn't make you £80 million worth. I mean, I think Alvarez is a good player, but tell me how the fuck a football club is selling their reserve striker for £80 million. There's only a couple of Premier League clubs who can sell their starting striker for that. We can't sell any of our strikers for £80 million. Arsenal can't sell any of their strikers for £80 million. And Man City are selling Alvarez for 80 million quid. And people wonder why they're dominating this league. But I don't think he's worth 80 million. I don't. And it makes me laugh that Atletico Madrid wouldn't give us 25 for Mason Greenwood, but they'll give Man City 80 for Alvarez. It's hilarious. But check out the comments if you want to get into an argument, because there's plenty of people saying he's worth it, which I just think's a laugh. Ram says, a swap deal, Sancho for De Jong, would be a good move, plus double deal for Mazraoui and Ligt. That would make this transfer window a success, says Ram. Yeah, I'm not entertaining De Jong. Those days are gone. I like De Jong. He's a good player, but I'm not entertaining it in any way, shape or form. I did say at some point there'll be a thumbnail on the United Stand with De Jong on it, but it's actually a bit of a personal challenge now that we don't have a thumbnail with De Jong on it. His wages are ridiculous. He doesn't want to come, and Barcelona are desperate to sell. Does that look like a player that is best in class with the mentality that Manchester United need? He would have to do the biggest spin interview ever to get me on board that De Jong is the right signing for United, because he has been so adamantly against coming to our football club, and his wages are so big that there's two big things I don't want at United. I don't want people who don't really have the right mentality, and I don't want stupid wages. So he doesn't represent what I want at Manchester United. I don't think he represents what you want. There's no doubt he's a very good player, but is there any difference between De Jong and Rabiot? Forget ability, but Rabiot will only come here if we give him ridiculous wages. He's not coming here because it's Manchester United. Whereas I think other players genuinely want to come to Manchester United. I think Xerxes genuinely wanted to come to Manchester United. Yoro genuinely wanted to come to Manchester United. You know, De Ligt, Mazraoui, Ugarte genuinely want to come to Manchester United. I don't get the feel. I don't want to buy players like that, if I'm being completely honest. As for Sancho, I mean, God knows. I mean, he's just hard to move because of his wage. Robert McCormack says, not what I'd do, but maybe Mainu at 6. Trouble is if you play Mainu at 6, is that then well, I don't know whether this is what you're saying, Robert, but if you play Mainu at 6 and you put Mount at 8 and Bruno at 10, there is zero height in that midfield, and you've got to have a little bit. So I also think, forget the height, Mainu is so good on the ball, you can't restrict him to a 6. I think he's just got so much more to his game in and around the box. Apparently there's a Romano update. I mean, it's been a long time coming on a Man United update, but let's have a look what he's got to say. I can't see anything from Romano. Obi Martins completed his medical as a new Man United player. We knew that was happening this week. But, I mean, look, very excited about the player. But we knew he was coming to Manchester United. So, well done on that one. Apologies on the microphone, by the way. I've just been asked about it again. I don't know why it keeps doing this. Somebody did send me something. It seems to me every time I go into my streaming settings at the moment, it knocks the volume down from 100 to 71. But then when I check it, it'll be 100, so it's sporadic. So if I forget to check it, it sometimes happens. So apologies about that. It is a little bit quieter than normal. Shubham says, got the book this morning, loved the prologue. Thank you very much for everyone buying the book. We're hoping this week that we'll find out whether we got into the top 10 Sunday sellers best list, because it's a full week this week. So I will let you know about that. But if you've not bought the book yet, you can scan the QR code, get involved. Thank you very much for that. Double D says something about eyes. Well, people need to open their eyes, says Double D. This is a rebuild. Every bloody club in the world knows that. So, of course, they're going to play hardball with United. It's called business, and that's fact. But keep the faith, Glazers out. I think the problem with that, Double D, is that you're right. But the problem with that is we've all played the game. And the minute we get bad results against Fulham or Brighton or Liverpool, there will not be in the media, in the call-ins, or in our fan base anybody thinking like that. It'll be fucking hell, same old shit, Ten Hag's an idiot, and all that. And that is why I and many other people are not reacting to what you're saying and being calm about it. You are right. You are the pragmatic, intelligent fan. It's a rebuild, and it's going to be very, very difficult. But, and I wish everybody thought like you, because it would be fine. But unfortunately, the media who are out for Ten Hag will not do that. And certain fans in our fan base will not do that. So to protect the manager, some of us have got to go on the front foot with Ineos and say, you need to do more. Because when the shit hit the fan at the end of last season, you went and hid. And if you're going to do that again, it's the manager that's going to take all the shit for you not getting your job done in the summer transfer window. Because we've seen it before. I remember the season that Mourinho got the sack. And I remember the summer before Mourinho got sacked. And I said, if this goes to shit, it should be Glazers out, not Jose out, because they haven't backed him. He didn't get backed in that final summer. We finished second in the league, and we did nothing. And that was the year where Liverpool did loads, and I think a couple of other people did. And we had a bad start to the season. Who was sacked by Christmas? Jose, not the Glazers. So we've seen this we've seen this film before, where a bad summer transfer window ends up with the manager gone by Christmas, and that can't happen. So if Ineos can't get their deals done, they need to be way more communicative, because the first thing that will happen when the bad results come is that people will turn on the manager. But I agree with you, Double D. I think patience is a virtue and it is needed, but we won't get it. I can see at the end of the window getting someone like Alonso on loan, says Dazzo. And Casper said, is not Ugarte's 60% win rate in duels worrying? Ranks around 300th in the top 5 leagues. 60% win rate in defensive duels is actually very good, Casper. I mean, I don't have the stats up from this morning, but it's very, very good. And also, he's doing double the amount of other people. So I mean, look, I might come on as a sub for my 5-minute charity appearance for Man United. Go in for a 50-50 with, Longstaff, win it. I've got 100% dual win rate. Ugarte does way more duels than everybody else. So it's very difficult to really focus in on percentage of duels won, because it depends how many you've done. But I think 60% is still quite a good one anyway. I mean, what's not in doubt is that people are I saw some of the comments this morning, and some people were defending Sander Berge, saying, oh, he's this, he's that. But Ugarte's doing it in the Copa America and the Champions League and the Portuguese League and the French League. He's not a mug. He's not some untested player from the French League. Like, he has got a pedigree. It's not worked out at PSG as well as it was meant to work out, and it might not work out at Manchester United, but you can't argue with the fact that he's a defensive monster. And United do need something like that. Look, if we had prime-time Casemiro, we wouldn't even be having this conversation, but we didn't. I've done that one as well. Olmo to Barca, looks like Sancho is staying, says Raul. I never knew Sancho was going to Barca, mate. Hi, Mark. We're having a typical Glazers summer, aren't we, says Riker. 2 signings. Branding the new stadium. It's not looking good, says Riker. I'm begging on my knees, praying that we get Zubamendi, and yet the Athletic says we're looking at Berge, says Andre. And Patrick Lynch says, did you see Swedish Rumble tweet about how centre-backs playing United system and the need for someone like Ligt? Very interesting. Well, I haven't seen it, Patrick, but I think that, some people can go very, 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 very technical. I've always been a big believer that stats aren't as important as the eye test. I mean, there are many players out there that statistically would make you think that they are the best player in the world, and then you watch them and you go, absolutely not. But I think the 2 principles of what Manchester United need to change in their defence is the ability to play out from the back, which means you've got to have players that are comfortable on the ball. And that doesn't mean that Johnny Evans or Victor Lindelof or Harry Maguire can't pass out from the back. But can they pass out from the back when they receive the ball on the edge of their box at Anfield with the Liverpool press bearing down on them? That's when you know who can play out from the back. And I'm sorry, Maguire, Lindelof, Johnny Evans, as backup centre-backs are fine, but as starting centre-backs, they're going to panic in that situation. So you need centre-backs and right-backs and left-backs who, when they receive the ball in that pressure cooker, they're relaxed, they're calm, and they go, okay, I've got the ball, I've got time. If I want to get rid of it, I'll boot it. But actually, let's have a look. Do I go back to Onana? Do I knock it into Shaw and move into space? And you will get that from Martinez. And you will get that from De Ligt. So that is something we miss. And the second thing is the obvious one, which is we need to play higher up the pitch. We've got to have a defensive line that plays on the halfway line. And we haven't got the defenders to do that either. Mehul says, hi Mark, Kobe looks bulked up. What about Mainu as a 6 and Bruno and Mount ahead of him? I've already spoken about it. I don't like it. I think it's too lightweight, and I think it wastes Mainu, who I think is an 8. But might play as a 6. It's not down to me. But, I think that you are... If you're asking me, is Mainu, Mount and Bruno stronger than Ugarte, Mainu and Bruno, then it's not. I mean, I don't even know if Mainu, Mount and Bruno is stronger than Casemiro, Mainu and Bruno. But... there ended the question, really. I think you can use Mainu, Mount and Bruno in certain games, but I'd worry about it against someone like Man City, because Mainu can do the job, but I mean, Mason Mount for me is more of an attacking player than a defensive player. But we do need to have rotation options. There's no doubt about that. PJ says Maguire passes well. Not under pressure, he doesn't. Do you want to go and watch a reel of Maguire receiving it under pressure and costing us goals? There's plenty out there. Wasn't there one against Villarreal as it comes to mind? I don't know. I saw my first match in South Carolina. Great experience other than the drunks in front of us. Let's get Ligt, says Double J. Thank you very much for that. Let's make one thing clear, says 17 Dragons. United have never had a 7-year star player with such bad injuries and assist record in left back. And the funny thing is, Wan-Bissaka has a better assist record attempt than Luke Shaw. Well, the funny thing is, mate, you're trying to say Wan-Bissaka's better than Luke Shaw. Absolutely not. Mate, if you want to follow Wan-Bissaka's career, go and support West Ham. They're going to be a good team this year. But if you think Man United should be keeping Wan-Bissaka, you don't understand what the top 4 or 5 teams are trying to do. They're trying to score goals. We're trying to attack. We're not trying to defend. If we were trying to defend, we wouldn't be selling Wan-Bissaka. He's a very good defensive right back. Which midfielder would you go for realistically if Ugarte and Zubimendi are not coming, says Sven? I would be very, very worried for a start. But I would go for the lad from Wolves, João Gomez. But I'd be worried. Kyle says, you said double on Twitter, but it's actually quintuple. City bought Alvarez for 14 million. Anyways, have a pint and good luck with Burge, says Kyle. Thank you very much. Would you take Kudos at United, says Prince? I mean, Prince, I'm not talking about unrealistic stuff. Like, we're just not, it's not real. It's not real. Tom Grant says, why do Man City think they can play career mode? I can think of 115 reasons why they can. They're just built to dominate. They're a juggernaut, mate, and nothing's going to compete with them. Nothing's going to compete with them. Robert McCormack says, I just liked how Mount kept the ball last season. He didn't play last season, Robert. What are you fucking talking about? You've been playing FIFA. How can you like how he kept the ball last season? He didn't play. We need to see him play. That's what we need to see. But look, as I said, I'm quite relaxed about Man City because... Sorry, I'm quite relaxed about Mount because... I'm not relaxed about Man City. I'm quite relaxed about Mount because if he stays fit, he's a good player. And talking about Man City with Alvarez and Grealish and Kovacic and Nunez, they're all bench players for them, but they do start some games and they do come off the bench and make an impact. And we can't... I think we've been so bad for 10 years that it's a mentality change for some of our fans to realise we need to build a squad. So everybody we come in, we're like, where's he going to play? Oh, what's the point? Where's Xerxes going to play if Rasmus is fit? You know, and actually, this is not a problem for the likes of Arsenal and Man City because you have a squad. So Mason Mount, in many ways, might be a really good example symbolically of what we need to become. We need to have players that can rotate in and out. But maybe they don't start when you're playing your best 11. But how often across a season do you get to play your best 11? You might need to rotate. You might have injury. There might be a loss of form. So I think people like Mason Mount could be quite symbolic. I don't think we spent £55 million to bring him in as a bench player, though. I think the plan didn't materialise the way it should have done. But I think what he'll end up being is a really good rotational player. Tobias says, what's your thoughts on Sander Berge? Keep your comment. Check out the show this morning. Massively uninspiring. Be very, very, very disappointed if we bought him. And I don't think it's a very good look for Ineos to be bringing in a player like that in your first summer transfer window. But I have to be a little bit careful because if it happens, I don't want to throw the poor lad under a bus. But massively, massively uninspiring. Murtagh revisited this summer. Last minute signings who won't be ready. Dropped points early, says Paul. Robert McCormack's talking about Mount when he played in the last few games. I'm just writing off last season for Mount, mate. We start again. Double D says, fair point, Mark. I've supported United since 77, so I'm well used to having patience. I think if we all had patience, we would be fine. But we're also well experienced in the fact that you can't be patient at Man United because you'll have some prat on the radio screaming and shouting a load of shit, some ex-player coming up with some angle, an agenda, or some fan, you know, being abusive towards the manager or something like that. But in a way, I sort of agree that, you know, you can't stand still at Manchester United. You can't be impatient, and Ineos need to realise that as well. There is no patience at Manchester United. You've got to, they're right. You've got to get best in class, and best in class realises that. And look, you look at when Ange went into Spurs last season. A lot of people were talking about them being title contenders for the first 3 months. Why do you have to be patient? There's a lot of players out there. There's a lot of football clubs out there. There's a lot of options out there. Make those choices. Hit the ground running. That's what needs to happen, because you will not ever get patience at Manchester United. It just won't happen. Tom Harrington says, "Do you think we should sign Amrabat instead of taking a risk?" The problem with Amrabat is he's a more than capable understudy. But I don't for 1 minute think that you could start. I mean, let's take the first 3 games of the season. Fulham, Brighton, Liverpool. If you start Amrabat in those 3 games, do you think, where are Man United going to finish up at? Let's say if Amrabat's our starting number 6 for the whole season, where do we finish in the league? Because I think we struggle to get top 4. To be honest. And, Man City without Rodri would probably not win the league. So it's a very important position. And I think of the people who've played that position for United through the years. All right, it wasn't a distinctive 6 because formations were different. But Paul Ince, Roy Keane, Michael Carrick. You can't just put someone like Amrabat there and think we're going to become a side that can challenge the best. I think he's a decent... Amrabat's like Mount to me. He will play games, and I'd trust him to play games, but I wouldn't have him as a starter. I think you've got to have better than that. I mean, I would happily see Casemiro and McTominay go, and Amrabat and Ugarte come in, but I wouldn't take Amrabat as the Ugarte replacement to take Casemiro's place permanently, if I'm being honest. What about Rabiot, says Dermot? I wouldn't rule anybody out at the moment. I wouldn't rule anybody out at the moment because we don't know what's happening. I still think Ugarte is possible, but we don't know what's happening, do we? United Spotlight says, Mount won the Champions League more than anything any of our players have won. I don't get the disrespect on Mount. Give him a chance. I don't get this as well, though. Like, I've heard this a few times today. People are talking to me about Alvarez being worth 80 million because he won the treble and he won the World Cup. And that's not how it works. George Best never played in the World Cup. He's one of the best players that ever played the game. Like, it doesn't... Just because you win a trophy doesn't mean you're better than everybody else who didn't win that trophy. Mason Mount's a good player. I don't think he should get disrespect, but I don't think he's better than Bruno. And I don't think he's better than Mainu as an 8. And I don't think he's better than Rashford or Garnacho on the left. And I don't think he's better than Ahmad on the right. And that's all I'm saying. I think he's a player that needs to stay fit, first of all. And then when he stays fit, I think he's a very valuable member of this Manchester United first team. And the first team should never be viewed as an 11 players. It should be viewed as 15 or 16. The lack of sales is genuinely worrying, says Reese. Look, on the sales... I don't have a lot of time because I've got to shoot. But on the sales, where we're at with the sales is there is a reluctance from a lot of players to leave. That won't be breaking news, but there is a reluctance from players to leave. The likes of Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof, Casemiro, Jadon Sancho, Scott McTominay, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and Christian Eriksen are not knocking on the door saying, I want to go. And that's the problem. They're not knocking on the door to go. They're like, well, if an offer comes in, I'll look at it. Is that unambitious? Is it because they're on the gravy train at United, guzzling big wages? I don't know. But none of those players are knocking on the door to go. They all think they're part of the plans in their heads, which is amazing because hardly any of you think they are. So why do they think that they are part of Man United's future? Because they do. Is it because they're on a wage and they're comfortable? Is it because they're not getting the message? Somewhere in that football club, the message isn't getting through. There's a big reason why it's not getting through. We've said it before. They're on big contracts, on big wages. What do you do? But there's no rush to get out of the door at Man United, so we can't raise the money. Do you think with Ligt and Martinez, do you think Amrabat will be good? Would love to get Ugarte, says Amit. I think Amrabat's a decent player. I'm just saying I wouldn't have him as my starting 6 every week. Imagine if we had listened to Ralph on Alvarez, says Glenn C. Alvarez and Kunku, Vardiel, Lema. There's so many. There's so many that weren't where they are now when Ranić was saying going and buying them. Barney says, I'll be disappointed in signing Amrabat. He's pants and wouldn't get in any of the top 7 squads. I don't think he's that bad. Diaz was another one. Yeah. I'm resigned to outgoings next summer when contracts run down, says Paul S. Thank you very much for everybody watching. Loads of you watching, actually. 15,000 on a 2 o'clock show. Big up the 2 o'clock show. We're back at 8 o'clock unless anything happens in between. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. Look, I'm not going to say it's pointless. It irritates everybody. I'm not going to say it feels like we're close to a deal. De Ligt feels like it's getting close, but how close is close? What's concrete? We've been in this road before, but hopefully at some point we're going to get something. There are rumours of Wan-Bissaka later on today, but again, I'm not going to confirm anything. We'll just have to see. Fantastic show. Thanks for all the good conversations away from the transfers. Really enjoyed that. And, if you want a bit of a laugh, go and check out the That's Football comments and wind up some Man City fans because they're not having it about Alvarez. They think he's worth more than 80 million. Speak in a bit. Take care.